Okay, welcome back guys. So this time we're going to look at some camera follow script. We're also then going to look at player rotation, so having the sprite rotate around depending on what key we press. We're going to add a controller support. We're also going to have objectives UI designed, and we're also going to have the script to open and close that UI. Finally, have individual collisions and collision layers. We're going to have a quick look at that. Now, I also want to quickly mention that I have lost a little bit of footage. There's not a lot I can do about it, but I've done my best to recreate it. Okay, here we go. So first thing is I did lose the footage from me creating this script, but this is the camera follow script. It's simply getting the target, which is a player, placing it on the camera, and the camera basically following the player around its target, essentially. So it's very straightforward. And it's actually a lot better to do that than having the camera on the script on the player itself. The other thing I've done, as you can see, is the rotation. I basically have a game object called the a look point that is on the player. That will be rotating around the player depending on what key you press. I've got the code up here, and then have the look at script which we created previously on the player and have the target the look point. So it'll, whenever the key's pressed, the player will rotate around. The other thing I've done is I've quickly renamed some of the player controls in the settings import, and then renamed the keys key down to button down instead, so that I can use controller as well as keys. I also had two screens here just to see what it looked like on both sides. Which I do think I changed later on because I don't really like it too much. Not that great. So there you go, I was using a controller there to move. And what I want to do is be able to use a controller to select the menu. So right now I'm using the controller. I've added an event system as well as a input module which you need for the controls, for the controller. And there you go, I'm using the controller there and I'm able to select. I can select the back to menu as I just did, and it's all working. The next thing I wanted to do was objectives. I wanted to create, this wasn't something a player could interact with, it's rather just to remind them what for objectives for them to go for throughout the game. Basically little tasks they need to do. And this is just a reminder what it might look like as a quick UI. Probably will change it later. The next thing I wanted to do was add in collisions. Again, footage was lost, so I've had to quickly recreate it. But on all of the different foods and on the islands, we basically wanted the separate collision. So on the main object, there's a normal collision, but then inside is a separate collision, which will be determined based on the layer. So we're going to mask certain collisions and allow certain others, so that we can interact but still have a trigger, if that makes sense. So basically just two collisions working together, and we can now interact with different things while certain other things can't interact with us. The reason why I wanted this is so that as you can see there, our island, we could go through the island but the shark couldn't, and we can now disable that if we want so the shark can. The next thing we wanted to do is I wanted to be able to quickly copy and paste over the code we've already created for the options menu to put that on objectives, since we've already kind of looked at it's basically the same thing. We want it to disable and then re-enable. So I quickly created the objectives in there, in our project settings, sorry. And then what I did is come back into the script, quickly change all the naming, and then basically do the same thing as the options menu or the skills skill tree. So when I press play, there you go, I can bring up the menu still just to make sure that the options is working. You can bring up the objectives, the objective UI, and it can be disabled, and we can still rotate the player, and everything seems to be working. So the next thing I wanted to do again is I want to show off quickly what the input settings now looks like as I renamed it. But now basically here's me using the controller, and then switching back to my mouse. So I now know that the controller and the mouse does work, and they're completely supported, as well as being able to have my objectives. This was a little bit of a crazy video. It cut into different things, but unfortunately I did lose my footage, so unfortunately there was quite a bit lost. but that's okay because hopefully I did cover it well enough. Now next time what we're going to be looking at is we're going to look at health and damage. So the player's going to be able to take damage by the sharks, and we're also going to have a health UI just to demonstrate that damage being taken. Let's see you next time.